Dude, I thought we were done with like the weird lighting for these videos, Dratnos. I thought that was a thing of the past.
I'm sorry, man. I'm trying my best.
Okay, so today, what we got in this week and over the duration of the race rule first, what we are going to be doing is daily recaps. And so the daily recaps are back. We're going to be covering what has happened in the previous 24 hours situation, kind of what we're experiencing with the race rule first in general, and how the state of the race really works. And so that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. We'll probably be recording at midnight-ish EU time, which is like 3 p.m. Pacific. So it'll be like the after Echo's day has ended, kind of in the middle of Liquid's day each time. And yeah, that'll be the plan. Daily is the plan as well. Although, of course, sometimes things happen, but we'll try and get these things out every day.
I think that we should be able to at least do daily. I don't see a reason that we wouldn't be able to. Okay, so today, since the race hasn't started, we've been doing this kind of prediction style episode for a little bit. We're going to talk about kind of what to expect with the raid, what to expect with the bosses, what is the state of the race coming into the race. And I think that talking about what to expect with the raid is probably one of the most interesting things. Day one and the first few days are just going to be splits, though, right? Like, I don't think that anything is going to change in regards to that. It's going to be split central, where you still have Master Looter and that kind of thing returning also.
Yeah, I think that it would be an optimistic guess that we will only be in splits for 2 days. I think that 3 is probably the most likely number for the number of days of splits. Yeah.
What are the most important items from splits? Obviously, they're the class trinkets, but those recently got nerfed.
Those recently took a nerf. Yeah, I think the class trinkets from Neltharion still represent a big thing to farm, though, especially for warlocks, which look like they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Demonology, that trinket is still quite good. There are some good items as well from the last boss on Heroic. There's that cloak, that very rare cloak that is quite a bit of DPS as well. And then there's just random good items. There's tier throughout the raid as well. So yeah, maybe you don't need to run as many splits as before, but I think because the very rare items are less good than they were in Vault relative to the other items, but
Sure.
they're still good, and they're still, you want to farm them on a lot of different specs.
I mean, a lot of classes too, going from 4 set to 2+2 of the new set isn't as much of like in a lot of cases that is actually a damage increase as opposed to a damage decrease. In addition to that, there's also the Omni token that you get from killing Scale Commander Sarkareth on Heroic. Heroic has been so hard the past couple of tiers. It's a situation that we don't necessarily know what to expect with Heroic itself. Sarkareth wasn't tested in any meaningful capacity. They've updated the Dungeon Journal with that fight a couple of times recently, and with the Omni token being locked behind it. I think that initially I was hoping to maybe get away with only 1 day of splits, but now that you said it, I think that it's probably looking to be maybe a day and a half or 2 days.
Yeah, normal is also something where targeted normal for specific items might be worthwhile, because normal is it's only 3 item levels lower than Heroic if you upgrade it all the way up. And similarly, like the very rare items that drop at 444 on Heroic, which is above the upgrade track, you can still bring those up to 441 if they drop on normal. So it's pretty good.
There's also a couple things that it's going to be kind of interesting for this race. I don't know how much is going to play into the first couple of days. It might actually play a lot into the first couple of days, but I expect it will be more of like a reset item, and that's doing M+ for upgrade tokens.
Right.
And in addition to that, I think that there might be a chance that members on their mains have to go and do the quest storyline. Depending on what is behind the quest storyline, there is a chance there's a Sarkareth quest. Now, this is completely unconfirmed at this point, but there might be a Sarkareth quest that, we got like concentrated primal infusion from killing Razageth. That was actually a big deal. Is that going to have to be something that guilds do going into killing Sarkareth potentially for, maybe a free crest? I wouldn't be shocked. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen, but I do think that doing Mythic Plus for the crests and make sure you get all your flight stones, that's going to be a big ticket item, at least towards the later part of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think the crests, so you're going to get like 7 free crests from a Heroic clear, which means that all the characters are going to want to kill all the bosses on Heroic, and then finishing out your crests with M+ from Heroic, and then getting all 10 of your Mythic crests. If you are perfectly timing all of your keys, we're still talking about doing like 14 keys or something, I think, to I guess it's whatever 150 divided by 12 is. So I can do that. I have a calculator. 150 divided by 12. You need 12 and a half. So 13 timed keys will get you your cap of any type of crest. But obviously, if you're killing bosses on any difficulty, that lowers the amount of keys you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is going to be less of a thing for people who are benched at any given moment during the race, because whenever you're benched at this point during the race to roll first, you're expected to be grinding. You're expected to be at least carrying other guildies through Mythic Plus or trying to achieve high ticket items for yourself. Doing 19s and 20s for these race to roll first raiders is almost exclusively the thing that they should be looking to do.
Easier than it was last time. I will say there is a reason to farm some 15 to 11 keys as well for those Worms crests that we were talking about. So maybe, but that would be like after you finish doing the 19s and 20s, maybe, maybe at the end of the week or something.
Sure. Okay. So I think moving on, that's kind of what to expect with just the race over probably the first reset. Let's talk about the bosses a little bit. So this raid is, what is this, a 9-boss raid tier?
Yeah.
A 9-boss raid tier. Ultimately, they've tested everything except for Sarkareth, so we kind of know what to expect-ish on a lot of these encounters. What have been your first impressions? I know that Thune wrote a really good article talking about his first impressions of the whole entire raid. What has kind of been your initial read on how this raid's going?
I suspect that so a lot of these bosses were really fun on testing. I agree. Rashok was probably the most cool. Echo of Neltharion, though, has a lot of cool stuff going on as well. The Amalgamation Chamber, that's an early boss, but also seems really sweet. So I think those are going to be bangers. I'm a little worried about so Zaskarn I could see going either way. Yeah, Zakali Assault.
That's obviously
suck.
That is a fight. So that is a fight that you see it during testing. You're like, damn, this fight kind of bad.
Yeah, we'll see. And then Sarkareth Dungeon Journal looks sweet, but nobody's tested it yet.
Yeah. I think overall for the bosses though, there's a large emphasis on single target encounters this raid, with Rashok being a single target encounter, Andy's an end wing fight, Zaskarn being, I don't want to say a full single target encounter, but it's like a mostly single target encounter. Magmarax is just a patchwork fight. Neltharion does have some adds at some point, but a large portion of the boss just is the boss itself. And so boss damage and an emphasis on single target is definitely something that is more heavily prioritized this raid tier, at least more so than Vault of the Incarnates, and definitely more than any raid that I've seen in a while.
It looks like it, at least. Yeah, again, Sarkareth does have some adds in the Dungeon Journal as well, so we'll have to see what the damage profile ends up being there, because usually it is the last boss that is the most important, but there are definitely a lot of pure single target or 2-target tops fights.
Yeah, I mean, Thune writes about these ads on this fight as well, but at worst, there's a fight that there's one assault AoE style encounter. There's one 2-target encounter with Amalgamation Chamber. I guess Forgotten Experiments.
Forgotten is two a lot of the time. Yeah,
2 a lot of the time. There's been a little bit of tuning hotfixes on Assault of the Zakali, which there's been a few for a few of the different fights. Yeah, this is just the most recent one. So, but if you look back over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of these sorts of tweaks coming to different bosses. I would say, unless you did raid testing, don't really look too much at these. But if you did do raid testing, the magma barrier is a little bit smaller than it was in the last Mythic raid testing. So that's good.
That's kind of the main takeaway, I'd say, from this one, if you did that testing.
Okay. I think that's... I mean, what do you think is going to be the best fight? I guess, in addition to that, in regards to bosses, are we expecting a lot of melee here? Are we expecting a few amounts of melee?
I think melee looked quite bad, but it's way too early to say that with confidence. I got a feeling it's going to be a 4 melee tier maybe or something like that.
Just as many pixels as we have for your camera right now.
Oh, love that. That's exactly what we like to see.
Just the number of melees we have camera pixels.
Dude, they're throttling our internet hard. It's somebody started downloading Final Fantasy and got yelled at, and then all our internet got super throttled.
Oh, that seems pretty typical with the people that you're hanging out with.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy players.
I don't know. We liked melee on some of these encounters, particularly like Zaskarn. We thought that melee was going to be pretty decent. Obviously on Magmarax, we were like, I don't know if we're going to play one melee, much less multiple melee on this encounter. That fight was really annoying for melee DPS just in general. On top of that, some of the range seemed quite good, particularly Warlock. Seems like it's going to be maybe the best DPS, probably the thing that's going to be highly stacked.
Yeah, I think Warlock looks really, really good. I think Evoker looks good.
I would agree with that.
I think Mage also still looks quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do think the Warlock stack is something I wouldn't be surprised by, especially for the guilds that do enough splits to get a Call to Chaos on each of them. I think Priests also, like Shadow Priest, having one of those, and then that's an extra PI for an extra Warlock. Healing
true.
Priests, extra PIs, extra Warlocks. Yeah, for the melee, Unholy looks like it's doing quite a lot of damage, especially early. They're still using the puzzle box as well, so you don't need to go get them another trinket, right? You just get them puzzle box, get them an Iridius fragment, and then they have this like double on use.
Oh, is that what they're
burst
doing?
Setup. Yeah, so
They're doing it with APOC? That's funny.
you do your gargoyle or whatever, and you press your puzzle box. That lasts for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Then in the final 10 seconds of that, you press your Iridius fragment, and then you do not press any globals for the next 10 seconds, because pressing a global will reduce the damage that your Iridius fragment's going to give you.
You're fully charged.
It's not worth pressing anything except for Death Coil, apparently, in that section. That's at least what I've heard about how Unholy's playing.
That is so troll, because that's like your gargoyle is already fully ramped and stuff like that too.
Exactly.
That is so stupid.
It seems extremely stupid, but we'll see if it actually ends up being how it gets played. But if it is, right, it's always nice early tier to have these sorts of old trinkets being good.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about predictions.
Yeah.
So we have this thing on competitive WoW subreddit, which I thought was a bit of a meme. They were talking
the
about
comments have some memes for sure, but it is useful information in the main post. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, there's been some roster shakeup with both Echo and Liquid. Basically, for Echo, people that have joined Maysteen, Thanner, Andy, Wexy, and they lost a couple of people being now Lorgok Wooby. Liquid gaining some people as well. I think the main storyline between these two guilds is Now steps down for Echo, Andy replaces him, Ben steps down for Liquid, and Yips replaces him. Obviously, I think that whenever Liquid also loses Atrocity and Trill and Myth, it's not great. This isn't a maybe. I know that Myth is now raiding in a different guild, so I can at least confirm that one. But losing Ben, Atrocity, and Myth doesn't seem particularly great for Liquid. But I think overall, the big players are obviously the tanks for both of these guilds.
Yeah, shout out to Spen and Machi. I did M+ with those guys last season. Those guys own, so big take-ups for Liquid.
Yeah, very good players. I mean, ultimately, but all of these guilds are going to be picking up the best players in the region.
Yeah, quite a lot of churn though, and more churn even for I think there were more people swapping in and out for guilds like BDG and Method even than there were for Echo and Liquid. Which this episode, these videos are generally going to focus mostly on Echo and Liquid, because we think, speaking of the predictions, I think between the two of those guilds, that if you told me they had less than a 99% chance to get world first, I would be suspicious.
I think that I would tend to agree with that. I don't see any world where it's either Echo or where it's not Echo or Liquid actually achieving world first here. I think
so. Method is ramping, right? Like that guild is also fantastic, right? They're having an in-person event as well now. They're having players on site. They've picked up a lot of the people that have been coming out of Echo in the past few, like Fragments, Lorgok, Deep Shades, right? These are some really big names as well that are on that team. They have a lot of just really talented players from top 20 guilds. They got Cruella, Callie, like from Pieces, right? They've got a lot of
people from Pieces. Yeah, they got a lot of people from Pieces whenever that guild died.
I would say like if there's 99% or even maybe a little bit less than 99% being split between Echo and Liquid, the remaining however much of a percent or a few percent you've got, I think the lion's share of that is owned by Method. BDG were fourth place last time, I think, as well. They're a guild to also still look out for, although I suspect that the Chinese guilds, which a lot of them have reformed and are now on the Asian servers, are going to be.
I think they're going to suffer. Okay, so we have hyped them up every single tier, and they have done worse than our expectations every single tier. I think the fact that they have such a large roadblock, having to have basically reform their guild on the Taiwan servers, that's not great. I know that Skyline reformed.
So Skyline, the top three, I think the top four Chinese guilds, which were all in the world top 10.
JTH, Alpha, Skyline.
JTH, I don't think it's Alpha anymore, but I think it's JTH, Chaojie, Skyline, and then there's one more guild that I don't know how to pronounce. I've just seen the characters. Mm-hmm. Those four guilds, I think, are all having like in-person events and are going to be running as best they can for World First still. So they're playing at like esports hotels in China and stuff. So
cool.
That's what I've heard. I got my source on the inside, so learning as much as I can.
So what do you think? Who do you think's going to win this one? Do you think it's Echo back to back to back to back?
I think if you told me Echo or Liquid were like more than 60%, like either guild was more than 60%, I'd also be suspicious. I think the two guilds are really, really close. Obviously, Echo has gotten the last three, but before that, Liquid got the two before.
It's been kind of interesting too, because I think people have, for lack of a better term, kind of shit on Liquid the past couple of tiers, saying that they're not particularly close.
Not far off though.
That's what I was about to say. So here's the deal: whenever you look back on Sepulcher, Liquid was very close for most of Jailer, and then I think a couple bad strategy decisions, particularly with their P2 movement, really ended up causing them to suffer. And then there was some stuff with, you know, them leaving the event early and kind of throwing up the white flag on the 20-day raid tier. It makes sense why they would end up looking a little bit worse than I think that they necessarily were throughout Sepulcher. And then honestly, last year in Vault of the Incarnates, they looked good on Broodkeeper. They ultimately lost the raid tier kind of on Razageth, but that was a raid tier that if they play at least Razageth specifically a little bit better, I think that they could have won that raid tier as well. So I think that people are like looking at this as Echo dominance, but I do think that Liquid has been very close the past couple of tiers. Now they've choked, I would say choked a little bit on the final boss in the past two raid tiers. I think they need to fix that, but
yeah, I mean, you could make that argument about Jailer. On the other hand, you know, if you go back to Sepulcher and you chop off those last three bosses, which there's a strong argument that Aberrus might look like exactly like a Sepulcher with the last three bosses chopped off. Like that could well be what it looks like. Echo would have won that, or Liquid would have won that tier.
Dude, so. Liquid looked so much better than Echo through Halandris. Like Echo took an extra day on Halandris. People love to have some revisionist history, but Echo looked awful on that fight. And so is it possible?
Yeah,
I think that is very close. I think that at least in my mind, it's still maybe a little bit Echo favored, but this is again 53-47.
If you want to give either team anywhere from 60 to 40, I'm happy with it. If you want to give them less, I'm suspicious. And I would bet either team below 40% if there was money to be made.
Yeah. I don't know. What are you thinking? Are you thinking Echo again?
Yeah, maybe a slight edge for Echo. I don't know. I mean, I'm here at the Echo event, so I gotta say that, or they'll, but maybe a little bit. But I don't know. Liquid.
They've looked really
strong
good.
Team.
I mean,
they're going to be hungrier as well, right? Like they've lost the last three. That is, you got it. You can't discount the hunger.
Yeah,
the fire.
They also are back at the Alienware training facility in LA. They have a lot of. I would say one of the big things that is good for Liquid is they have a lot more stability. It seems like in regards to, you know, they're traveling to the same place every single time. They have a chef in house cooking all of their meals for them. Seems like they're very laser focused on their main goal, which is winning every single point. Where Echo seems like they have, you know, some more moving pieces with just kind of what's going on.
I think, yeah, Echo has fewer players on site as well.
Could be a good thing, like could be a bad thing.
Which, yeah, again, could be good, could be bad. The servers, of course, there's been the when is the NA servers going to come up debate. It looks like it's going to be 11 a.m. now.
Yeah,
Pacific.
They moved it back.
They moved it back. So a question is going to be, when do they actually come up? How buggy are the encounters? If those servers come up straight at 11 and the encounters aren't buggy, of course, that's, you know, really nice for Liquid. If they get delayed, and if those early fights, or, you know, if there's any kind of buggy stuff that Liquid run into, all of a sudden that advantage evaporates real quick, right?
Do you expect this to be over one? I expect this to go over one reset.
So historically, the only tier in recent memory to die in the first reset is Sylvanas, right?
Yeah.
That being said, that was the second raid.
But that on the last
expansion.
day. I mean,
yeah.
That raid was like criminally undertuned too, though.
Yeah, I think second reset is the safe bet, though.
Dude, I hope we have some really sick like patchwork fights. I mean, since we have so many single target fights, I hope that at least, you know, two of them are sludge fist level banger, tight DPS check kind of thing. Especially since a few of them are really late into the raid. All right, cool. Any final closing thoughts, Stratness?
Shout out to the fans.
I'd like to shout out the fans as well, and we will see you guys tomorrow. See you guys later. Goodbye.